What's going on, YouTube? I'm back. Quick disclaimer, because this is mainly a beard channel. Once again, I'm going back to my CZP10C. As you can see, I did a trigger install. This is a Theta trigger from HP Industries. Let me do a safety check for you real quick. Nobody's in the house or anything like that. I know the gun is pointing up in the air and all that good stuff, but nobody's here. There's nothing in, no magazine, nothing in the chamber. All right. So I had a bit of an adventure when installing this trigger. I am not, excuse me, really a hands-on type of guy. So initially I was just going to take it to a gunsmith and have them do the install on the trigger. I called a couple different local gunsmiths, and none of them have ever done a trigger job. Let's just call it a trigger job on a CZ, or a CZP10C, I should say. One gunsmith said it was going to be $90, and the other said it was going to be around $70, or between $50 and $70, since he's never done a install either. So I watched the video that HP Industries uploaded on YouTube, and it seemed fairly simple. But like I said, I'm not one who's really good with his hands. You know, I do little basic stuff. I can change tires, oil, fix the sink here and there, you know, stuff like that. But I'm really not in deep with, you know, using my hands. So I went on and I watched the video first a couple times. And then as I was doing the install, I also just followed along with the video. And during the install, I had it was the last part. Everything came out fairly decent, all the roll pins and all that stuff, you know. This pin, these two pins right here were the toughest. This pin here came out fairly easily. This pin came out fairly easily. You know, I don't really have like a real workbench or anything like that. I'm sitting at a table in my basement, just, you know, trying to get this trigger in. So when I finally got the trigger in, I got everything installed. I'm not, excuse me, I'm not all familiar with all the different terminology and all that stuff. But let me see let me just do this. Whatever this is called back here, don't remember what this is called back here, and the trigger bar. I do remember this is the trigger bar. When I put all that stuff back together, this goes in first and the trigger bar goes in second, you know, after you get the trigger installed and all that. The number 18 part, I'm not going to take it back apart, but right below the takedown lever, you can see, let's see, yeah, here's part of the takedown lever. It's under spring tension. You can see that there is a small piece, a small block in there with a small spring. That block and spring came out as I was, you know, pounding away trying to get the roll pins out. That also happened during the install on YouTube from HP Industries. That also happened. I was hoping that didn't come out, because I was like, oh man, there's something else that I have to put back together. And just, you know, the block and the spring are very small. I didn't want to have any of those issues, but I did. So I was all done, completely done with everything. And then when I went to put the block back in, I put the block back in just to make sure it was lined up properly, you know, before I put the block and spring in, you know. And as I put the block back in, it must have got stuck. Some grease or something may have held on to it. And I turned the frame upside down like this on the table and tried to shake it on the table, and the block didn't come out. And I kind of lightly tapped it. You know, when you tap something, you don't just tap it once. A lot of times, I kind of went like that. And then on the second tap, the block came out, and I hit the block, and it shot out somewhere in my basement. Oh man, I got kids' toys. My kids' toys are stuff all over the place. You know what I mean? I was just in shambles trying to figure out where this damn piece is. For about a week, I came down the basement looking for this freaking piece, and I couldn't find it. I contacted HP Industries, and I spoke with Phil. Phil was unbelievable. Phil, the customer service over there at HB Industries was great. Phil walked me through something. I called and asked about some certain things about the install and all that. Phil walked me through some of it. And so when I called about the part, he let me know, which I kind of knew but didn't understand, when people were talking about the CZ doesn't have a lot of parts to support, you know, just if something breaks. If something breaks, you're going to be in trouble because CZ is not making anything right now. I mean, I saw magazines and stuff like that. I can't remember where else I saw, but I saw magazines, you know, but that, you know, a lot of people detail strip these, you know, if something gets lost or if something breaks, there's nothing. So I totally understand now when people are talking about the support, the lack of support for parts right now. So if you're thinking about getting this gun, just think about that. Just think about the lack of support for parts if something goes wrong. So what they did at HB Industries, they 3D printed 2 of those blocks. And I'll tell you why I didn't have to use those in 1 second. They 3D printed 2 of these blocks and sent it to me. And I think the day before these blocks came in, I actually found the piece because the cable guy came over and I had to move, you know, my TV stand and stuff. So it was under the freaking TV stand. I looked through the glass and I knew what it was immediately. I knew what it was. And I was happy as hell. I went upstairs. I installed, put the number 18 part, that block, back in, and everything works just fine. Everything works fine. It's not like a tabletop, so it'll be kind of hard to see. It's gonna be kind of hard to see let's see if I can figure out a way to, anyway, it's functional. Here's that slight bit, you can probably hear a little bit, the slight bit of take up. The wall is very pronounced. There's a break. Reset. Like I said, I know this is probably dumb, but I'm going to do it anyway because it's hard to see because it's not a tabletop. But here's a reset. Boom, reset. Slight. Barely any movement before the break again. And I like the trigger. I'm happy with it. It's the burnt orange one. You know, this hook on the bottom right here, it really helps you kind of like, you know, find a sweet spot on the trigger. You know, you won't rub the bottom of the trigger guard, and you know, people were complaining about blisters and stuff. I mean, I didn't feel any of that, but this was more for cosmetics, for aesthetics, whatever you want to call it. It just looked cool to me. The factory trigger was fine. I've never done anything to any of my guns. It just looked cool and I wanted one, so I installed it. So that was it. So big shout out to Phil and HB Industries. And real quick, if something happens and you know, you happen to have one of these parts, HB Industries ships you one of these parts because their customer service is great and they want your gun to work. This is a temporary fix. If you can get your hands on the factory part, you should get the factory part. So yeah, that's it. That's my adventure with the trigger install. I do want to do some sights. I'm probably going to put a light on here, and that's about it. And I'm not doing the sights. I'm going to take that to a gunsmith. But yeah, like I said, it's functional. I ran it like 150 rounds. It ran just fine. But that's it. That's it. I really like the trigger. I like the gun. I'm happy with the purchase so far. So, yeah, that's it. Questions, comments, concerns, let me know later.